Hello everybody, my name is Erik and today we're going to talk about the new AMD X470 chipsets and the Ryzen of the second generation Ryzen CPUs. So you probably already noticed on the internet a lot of news about these new CPUs. I'm also very exciting. Few things we cannot do today. We cannot talk about performance, so I'm not allowed to show you anything live. However, we have one expert from AMD online, James Pryor. He's Senior Product Manager at AMD, so he can answer a lot of questions. So please, I'm following on YouTube and Facebook the chat, so if you have any questions, just shoot and we will try to answer. And yeah, we will talk a little bit about CPUs, we will do unboxing, and we will do unboxing of a mainboard. So yeah, let's go. James, are you already online? Let me take my headset. James, yes. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
Good. I'm fine, thanks. So I understand you're now in the UK?
That's right, I'm in London. We have a big event here, meeting a lot of partners and customers, telling them all about the great things we're doing with Ryzen.
Ah, cool. So also jet lag?
Oh, so much jet lag.
Okay, so, well, I hope everybody has a lot of questions for you so we can keep you awake.
Yes.
That should be fine. So maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself, what's your role in AMD?
Right, so yeah, I've been with AMD for 4 years. I work in the product management client business unit. I am a business development manager and a product manager. So what I do is help shape the products that come to the market, help launch them, and also give the feedback from the users and the partners and the customers about what they want to see improved, changed, next generation, that kind of thing. So very big role. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoy it. Get to meet a lot of cool people like yourself and all the guys on the stream.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So I already see some questions. Well, welcome, James. Thank you, Robin. Let me see. People want to see the products. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah, here we have some CPUs. So maybe we can talk first a little bit about the CPU. Last Friday, you already introduced CPU. So you release the specifications.
That's right.
Maybe we can see it on screen as well. So basically you have 4 different SKUs, right, at this moment?
That's correct. We got 2 new Ryzen 7 CPUs and 2 new Ryzen 5. The Ryzen 7 are the 8-core 16-thread products, 2 different power classifications. So you've got a X for the highest performance and then a non-X, which is our efficiency focused model for everybody that wants to have a lot of cores and threads but is looking for really most efficient computing as well. And the same goes for Ryzen 5. You've got the X model for the higher clock speeds, the fastest possible processing, and then you've got the non-X, which is also good for the lower TDP systems.
Yeah. So these also have more cores, because in the past was always like dual core, quad core. So now we're already talking about 8-core, right?
That's right, yeah. We've redefined where the 6 and 8 core and the highest levels of multi-processing performance can be available. It's all with AMD and Ryzen.
Yeah, okay. And I think especially for gaming this is very exciting, because you know, games nowadays, they take much more advantage of the cores, and you see some games are GPU limited, but also a lot of games are CPU limited, and then like a real 8-core can really push the FPS, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Modern APIs like Vulkan, DirectX 12 are going to be able to really scale with the cores and threads. They're natively multi-threaded, so a lot of developers have been shifting to those new APIs for a while now. So modern games really loving the multi-core. Plus, a lot of gamers don't want to just game. They want to chat, they want to stream, they want to have playlists going, they're looking at their chat windows. So all of that needs more cores and threads to serve for the multi-processing going on, because it's not just you and one game, it's you and a game and a web browser and music and everything else.
I have a question from Oliver on the chat on Facebook. For gaming and streaming, what processor do you recommend? Any suggestions for that?
Yeah, if you're just looking for gaming and streaming, then Ryzen 5 2600X or 2600 will be a great CPU for you. If you're looking to just go straight on to Twitch or Mixer, get out there, 1080p 60 FPS streaming at 6 kilobit per second, then you're going to have a great experience with that. If you're looking to do some of the post editing, because you're saving the stream as well. You want to record to the hard disk, then you want to go for that 8-core, and you'll have the extra cores and threads that let you game and stream and record all at high quality and a high FPS, so you can do YouTube, hit roll later on.
Yeah, that's perfect for streaming. Also have a question from somebody. Can we use the new CPUs on the X470 motherboards? Yeah, no problem without it. I mean, all the motherboards, I think from MSI we already have the BIOS up to date from March on, early March. So the new AGISA code is in there, so everything works perfectly with the CPU. Also with the new CPUs, also with the CPUs which were launched a few weeks ago with Vega graphics inside. So just drop them in there and it will work, no problem for that.
Absolutely, it's all compatible physically. It's just a matter of the firmware or the BIOS in there. MSI have done a great job of getting that new BIOS into all their boards that are out there in the market, and I know they'll support you if you have a processor that you need to get booted up, and AMD will also make sure there's no processor left behind, so you can contact either MSI or AMD. We'll make sure it works.
Yeah. Okay, so let's maybe unbox one. I have here a couple of CPUs, looks really nice. So I'm going to unbox it and let's see what's all inside, because I understand some things in the packing changed, right?
Yeah, this is the first Ryzen lineup there. Every CPU comes with a cooler. So we've had previously the X models didn't come with the cooler for the Ryzen 5s and Ryzen 7s. Now we've added in a nice high-end cooler for you. So inside Ryzen 7 2700X, brand new cooler, first time it's ever been seen, is the Wraith Prism. So cool because it's got that beautiful 3-zone RGB LED system in the top.
Okay, I think we have a picture of that, of the RGB LED. It indeed looks very cool. And what we did on our side, I mean, this is completely compatible with MSI Mystic Light. So from our software, there is a USB connector on there. Let me show it here. There's a USB connector, so you can just connect it to your motherboard. And then with our software, you can completely synchronize the cooler with the other components on the main board or memory, whatever you have, to give it that nice look and feel. Besides that, I think you also have a Cooler Master utility on the website, right?
That's right, yeah. If you don't have one of the MSI motherboards with Mystic Like, then you can use the internal USB connection cable and our software on the Cooler site that's hosted by Cooler Master, and you get full control. All kinds of cool things like turn everything off for dark mode if you don't like RGB, or you can program in Morse code into the LED ring. You can do fun things with different meteor chases. There's a lot of great things you can do in there, and you can save profiles and share them with your friends too, so you can have some fun making custom things for your team or your clan or whatever.
Yeah, that's nice. And the bottom, I see also copper base.
Yeah, copper base. We moved to a direct contact heat pipe base now. It gives us a little bit of thermal advantage, so this is even better than the previous Wraith Max cooler. Increases the capacity, so while the 2700X is rated at around 105 watts TDP, this cooler out of the box is about 116 watts, so it's got plenty of headroom in there. And there's a switch on the side of the fan to go to a high-speed fan profile.
Let me see.
More thermal performance, and that takes it to about 125 watts. So if you're interested in most clock speeds,
so here you can see the switch.
More,
it's like this.
Yeah, and just move it across, you get a higher fan speed.
Yeah, and on this side you have the USB connectors.
Yep.
So I also see there are some extension cables in the packing. This is also for RGB, I see.
Yeah, you got the connectors for USB or RGB 50/50, depending on what you want to connect into. Very compatible, so it should be very easy to get your system to have synchronized LEDs.
Yeah, okay. And then what else we have here? I think this is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, the CPU, the goodness itself.
Yeah, indeed. So this is 2700X. What does the X stand for?
So the X is how we show it's the higher performance model. So when you've got the same core and thread configuration, you want to know how to know which one is the higher clock speeds. That's what the X shows. So the X is the 105 watt TDP, whereas the non-X is 65 watt TDP in the Ryzen 7 models.
Yeah, So, nice case badge.
Yeah, nice little case badge, and you get all the benefits of the best amount of performance we could get out of that product.
Yeah, and the CPU.
Yeah.
For this one, you're still using the pins, and I saw for your high-end platform, you already moved to like LGA, I believe we call it, right?
Yes, that's correct. This is our PGA pin grid array socket. It's has a lot of advantages because it's a quite cost-effective way to get a lot of different signals in and out of the package. So you can get a quite easy installation mechanism. And it also means that the motherboard manufacturers like yourself don't have to worry about bent pins. AMD.
Yeah, we hate that.
Yeah. So that way, if there's any issues, then we own that and we can take care of it, and it's a bit simpler for the mainstream market. In the high-end desktop, we had a lot higher number of pins we needed to put into the socket, so we went for the land grid array, which gives us a bit more density.
I see some interesting questions. I mean,
Good.
when I saw your lineup, you in the past you had a 1800X, and now you have a 2700X. But last generation you also have a 1700X and a 1700. So somebody is asking, Simple Gaming, what happened to the 2800X? Can we also expect that?
A great question. So when we launched the first Ryzen 7s, we wanted to cover a wide span of market. We wanted to go for HDDT as well as for mainstream. So we had a couple of different options, make sure that we could hit the right price points. And when we started looking at the second generation, improving performance with that same design, but using our optimized process technology, higher clock speeds, but it's still essentially the same design, we found that we only needed one new X processor to be faster than the previous generation, right? So the 2700X is faster than the 1800X.
Okay.
So we didn't have to go any extra numbers in there. And we also got some feedback that it was simpler just to have two numbers. So that's why we went with 2700 and 2700X.
Yeah, so at this moment 2800X is the fastest on the market. Some question related to this. Do you have an ETA on when we can see some benchmarks? Because like what I told you in the beginning, today I'm still not allowed to show you any benchmarks. Sorry.
Yeah, very soon for benchmarks. In fact, the 19th, when these processors go on general sale, is when you'll see your favorite review sites be able to talk about what they know, what they've tested. So that's the great way to get all of the performance numbers you want to know, and you can see what they think of it. We're expecting some positive comments because we've got great pricing now. Remember the 1800X was $499 when we launched, and now 2700X is coming in at $329.
Yeah. That's You're talking US dollars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, US dollars is without VAT. That differs per state, and I think in Europe it's not 100%. You can convert it to euros, and then you still have the VAT. So the pricing is a little bit different. But you're saying that 2800X in Europe is cheaper than last generation at introduction, the 1800X.
Yeah, 2700X is, even with the taxes and fees, is going to be much lower price than the 1800X.
And more powerful.
And more powerful, faster and less money, and now it comes with the cooler too. It's a much better value proposition.
Yeah, let me check some questions. What about B450? I don't know anything about that. Will there be a second generation Threadripper later this year?
So B450, we haven't announced anything about any other chips.
That's why I said I don't know anything.
Nothing new there. For Threadripper, we're working on details of what we'll do with a second generation Threadripper. So far, what we've said is there might be one in the second half of the year.
Okay, interesting. So maybe move on to the chipset, because with the new second generation Ryzen CPUs, AMD also launched a new chipset called X470. When I look at this slide you released to the media, I didn't see a lot of differences. So then I dived into the specs, and indeed, if on your website you compare X370 to X470, spec-wise. Spec I'm talking about USB connectors, SATA connectors, Pci Express lanes, this kind of stuff. Actually, not a lot of things changed, but I think actually we know a lot of things changed under the hood. From MSI point of view, I can already tell the overclockability increased a lot. You see here in this slide as well that I cannot read it. Let me see, Jeroen.
Yes.
Okay, so the improved power infrastructure, and that's also right. I mean, from MSI side, you see. Let's take a mainboard over here. The PWM of the VRM, however you want to call it, which basically gives power to the CPU, improved a lot. Basically you can now overclock the CPUs much higher. Then you can also see, let me see, upside down. At the bottom there are two 8-pin power connectors, and also memory improved a lot. So I believe the new CPUs 2700X, etc., they already support faster memory standards.
That's correct. Yeah, out of the box, we updated for all second-gen Ryzen processors from 2667 to 2933, and you're going to see better memory overclocking. So for the overclock memory kits, the extended profiles that are out there, you'll see better support for those too. It should be easy to see that. We've had a lot of good results with doing that internally, so hopefully you guys will see the same thing in the market as well. But the big change on the chipset for the design side was reducing the idle power and improving some of the USB throughput rates when you've got lots of USB devices, which are not huge things, but when you combine it with the work that you guys at MSI have done for the power phases, for the memory routing, for all the overclockability, for the features in the board, it's a worthy update. It's a nice new board.
So I believe you're talking about idle power, then you're talking about CPU power, right?
Actually, that was more about the chipset power.
Oh, chipset power. So it's now less than 2 watts, right?
Yeah, less than 2 watts on the chipset power. We did some work on the processor as well for power consumption, because the new 12 nanometer process does improve performance per watt, significant improvements. You'll see the biggest generational gain on those non-X parts, where they're going a lot faster for a lot less energy. But we really dialed in those X parts, the 2700X particularly, to give the maximum performance, because that's what people want when they buy the top part, is they want the best out of the box experience.
Yeah, that's correct. And memory, I saw some benchmarks already. I'm really impressed, and that's not only the stock performance, because last generation, let's say the first generation Ryzen, there were a lot of comments about the memory performance, also especially overclockability with the overclocking kits, and I think now that's all fixed, right?
Absolutely. We got a lot of feedback when we launched first gen Ryzen about memory overclocking, timings, latency, and we wanted to bake that into our products and into our BIOS as fast as we could. So throughout last year, we introduced updates that help improve memory overclocking. Yeah. And then in this generation of product, in the silicon, we put in design improvements that reduce the memory latency and the L1, L2, and L3 cache latency. So all of the memory architecture, the sub caches and the memory itself, is getting faster. You get higher throughput rates at lower latency, and that's going to have a great impact on gaming. It's going to feel a lot smoother and be even better for gaming.
Yeah, our in-house overclockers already played with it, and I cannot say any numbers, but really amazing results. So I'm really looking forward to the tomorrow, let's say like that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to see.
Yeah. Maybe let's. One more thing. I also saw something new on the chipset side. Store MI. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's correct. Yes, Store MI is a new technology included for free with 400 series chipsets, and it's a storage tiering technology. So we've kind of looked at everything from an experience point of view and trying how to make things easier for users. And one of the pain points people have today is there's some great fast flash-based storage out there, NVMe M.2 SSDs and SATA SSDs, and some great high-capacity, large rotational hard drives. But that means you have to manage where you're installing, where you're downloading, where you're keeping your data and your applications, and you have to manually move things to your fast drive and backwards and forwards. Yeah. So Store MI automatically and intelligently joins the two different kinds of storage together to make one logical disk. So it looks like a single volume in your computer. You just install your apps in one place, and it will intelligently analyze and move the fastest, most recently used, and most used data to your fast storage and move your least used storage blocks onto the slower side. So that way you only ever have the data you use the most inside the fast storage.
Yeah, so can I say that this is AMD's version of Optane?
It's a little bit better. I think it's a bit better because there's no restriction on what kind of storage technology you want to use. If you want to use any of the SSDs or NVMEs, even Optane in the market today on AMD platforms, you can. You can put them all together.
Yeah, so it's very flexible.
Yeah, very flexible. Plus, we have the benefit of up to 2 gigabytes of your main system memory being used as cache. So, about 3-4 minutes after you've started working on your PC and booting up, all the data you're reading in is coming in from main system memory. It's got DDR4 memory bandwidth straight into your stuff. So if you're sitting there gaming, loading the same levels over and over again because you're on that 6-hour Overwatch, Fortnite, whatever it is.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, those level load times are going to be as fast as possible because they're cached in RAM and not coming from the rotational hard drive or even the NVMe.
So especially interesting for gamers.
Yeah, it's going to really reduce the time from character select to getting onto the screen and getting into the action.
Yeah, I have some questions. People are asking for the exact NDA time, but I think you will see tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow is 24 hours, so that should be okay for you to wait a little bit.
Yeah, around about 24 hours, you'll be happy.
Yeah, indeed. So somebody's asking, are games already optimized or should we wait? So I think he's referring to the 8 cores.
Yeah, we've got a couple of games optimized for the Zen architecture, the new memory architecture, but there's not a lot, and we continue to engage on that front. So that's a big effort for us, and it's something that's really benefited us by being a CPU and a GPU company, right? Having Radeon Technologies Group lets us talk to all the developers super easily. They've got great relationships. They've got great partnerships with all the developers. So we've really sent out more than 1,000 Zen-based desktops to gaming partners, so that developers can firsthand tune and test for those different core configurations. So it's a long process. Takes a little while to go through and check all the code, make sure it works good. And obviously, they don't want to make the experience worse for anybody who's currently enjoying those games. So we've got a lot of work to do there, but it's in progress and it's going well. We've got some good updates.
Yeah. And I think what we see in the industry is always. At one moment the hardware vendors have faster CPUs, faster GPUs, and then the games are behind. And then the next generation, there are games which really push the limit, and you wish you have faster hardware, right?
It's always a balancing game. Yeah. We catch up on the hardware for a minute, and then boom, the developers, they figure out how to just hammer it so hard that it crumbles, and then the race is on again to develop new and innovative technologies and more performance.
Always takes time. Let me see another question. Somebody's asking why the 2700X TDP is higher than the last generation, or let's say the first generation.
That's a great question. So when we moved to 12 nanometer, it gave us this brand new frequency voltage curve where the amount of voltage that was needed to hit a particular clock speed came down quite a lot. And when we did that, it gave us the opportunity to bring in Precision Boost 2, because now we can do this multi-core, multi-thread boost across all cores and threads based on workload, not based on number of cores and threads. So what we found is when we were defining the 2700X is we wanted to have the most amount of performance out of the platform, looking at how much power these motherboards could deliver, and we found, we were actually a little bit TDP limited. So what we did was push up the TDP so we could still stay safely within the current the electrical limits, and say, let's take a little bit of thermal headroom and do that. And it's not a huge amount. The 10 watts TDP increase effectively means that we can run 16 threads at the boost frequency of the previous generation product. So we've seen some tests where we can run 3.95, 4.0, even 4.05 gigahertz on 16 threads, where our previous generation product was only able to run 3.7. Yeah. So 10 watts TDP gave you 300 megahertz of all-core boost. I think that's worth taking, right? Because that's going to benefit every single application out there.
Yeah.
And you're going to get more frequency than that when it's lightly threaded. 4 to 8 threads could be up to 500 megahertz faster for running through games. So
I think that's also the reason why you beefed up the cooler a little bit, right? Because with XFR 2.0 you can even reach higher clock speeds.
Exactly.
Or let's say sustain it longer.
XFR 2.0 gives you the ability, when you have more thermal headroom, to hold that boost for longer and higher. So yeah, that's why that cooler is a little bit over-designed, got those extra fan overclock modes so you can try that out and not have to worry about even going away from the stock cooler. So tons of performance in the cooler, tons of performance in the chip. If you've got a nice cool room and you've got a nice cool processor, you're going to see nice high clocks.
I see a question for somebody. What if you add water cooling? Can you then even go higher?
Yeah, absolutely. You get more headroom with the better the cooling is. Obviously, our 4.35 gigahertz top frequency is the max you'll get out of XFR. It won't go above that.
Okay.
If you want to see more frequency than that, you'll have to use Ryzen Master to overclock, or use the MSI BIOS or tools.
Yeah, and indeed we also have a lot of tools for that. Let's maybe take a little bit about the mainboards, because I see more and more questions about chipset. Will there be a white X470 motherboard? Well, let's have a look at that. So we have a roadmap of products. This is the roadmap, and as you can see on the roadmap, here it is. This is basically all the AMD chipsets for AM4, and then the motherboards we have on the market. So A320 on the right side, and you see we have everything segmented. Then you have B350 and you have X370. X370 used to be the high-end platform, the high-end chipset, let's say like that. So normally that for MSI we created mainboards in the two highest level of the gaming motherboards. And now you also see that the new X470, which is even a higher chipset with all the improved overclockability, memory compatibility, memory speed as well. James already talked a lot about small other improvements like idle power, like USB throughput, these kind of things. That's also why these motherboards are typically in the performance segment and the enthusiast segment for MSI motherboards. So we have 5 different motherboards on the market. Later I'm going to talk about it. So this one, so this one is our most high-end model, which is the X470 Gaming M7 AC. AC stands of course for wireless. Gaming M7, I think everybody knows what it stands for. So maybe let's open up this. Let's open up. So we have the motherboard. Let me put that here. Let me see what's all in the box. Of course, I/O shield. You cannot go without. Actually, very annoying if you forget to assemble it when you put already the mainboard in the case. Driver CD. We talked about it in the last few weeks. We still have a driver CD. We don't offer USB key, not only because of the cost, but also because of backup solutions. A thank you card. Thank you for purchasing. Actually, with this, you can register your product at MSI. You get extra warranty. You also have the possibility to win pricing, etc. You can register for the newsletter. We have some cable management labels. So if you have a lot of SSDs, hard drives, it can be very messy in your case. So with this, you can label them. Just write down. Of course, the quick guide, but I think a lot of people already know how to assemble this. But of course, if you don't have an AM4 motherboard, best to check it out, because you want to be careful with the pins. Of course, the manual. I think 2 weeks ago we discussed about the manual. Do we still want to include it? Should we still include it in the packing? Yes or no? A lot of different opinions about it. So for me, the manual is only useful for the error code. So if I see something flashing, some error, nice case badge, cannot go without a dragon. Then we have a lot of cables. Let me see if this is, so these are the SATA cables for your SSDs or hard drives. Even more, and as you can see, some are straight, like how we call them, and some are angled. So if you don't have a lot of space in the case, you can use these to avoid any mechanical issues. Then let me see what's this. What is this? Ah, I already know. So this is an extension cable for RGB. It's very small for RGB LEDs. So with this you can, for example, connect third-party solutions, coolers, RGB LED strips to your motherboard. I have some RGB LED strips here somewhere. So here, this is RGB LED strip, and this is the extension cable. You have a lot of different. Let me see. Yeah. So this is an extension cable, and normally you can put this as well in your chassis. The problem only is that you want to put this at the side of your chassis, so you need an extension cable to really put it in your case. Let me see, like that. I have some more RGB LED stuff. Here, this showed you a few weeks ago as well. So this is basically a hub from Corsair, Commander Pro it's called. Which you can use on your mainboard. Later I will show you some pin headers for that. Let me see, more cables, RGB LED, more RGB LED. So I think everybody likes RGB LED, right? And this. Yes, let me see. SLI bridge. So the MSI X470 support SLI. As you know, the current generation is using a hard bridge like this one. HB bridge, high performance, high bandwidth bridge, and basically in the current generation of the NVIDIA 10 series or 1000 series, you can only do two-way SLI. There is no triple or quad SLI anymore. However, our mainboards also support Crossfire, and with Crossfire you can even do up to I think still 4 cars. James, do you know anything about this? Because you're more like a CPU guy, right?
Yeah, more on the CPU side. So yeah, it depends on the game, but mostly we support 2 to 3. Some games will be able to go to 4, but it depends on how they're developed.
Yeah, and nowadays I think if you see the performance of like Vega and those kind of graphic cards, I mean you can already run 4K. So yeah, you can always use 2 cards or more, but yeah, the need at this moment is not really there until maybe there are some new games which really push the limit again.
Yeah, that's right. We're waiting for the next generation APIs to really be used, because they've got that explicit multi-adapter technology that just lets the game programmer scale across all the different cards in the system, and that'll really take us to the next level. Especially when you're pushing those massive amount of pixels of 4K, the new high-res VR headsets, maybe even to 5K and 8K panels.
Yeah, what I understand, currently it's more driver dependent and a little bit from the game developer. But in, for example, DirectX 12, if you have the multi-GPU solutions, they will need to program everything, right? And that's why adaptation is still lagging behind it a little bit. Yeah,
that's right. So we were trying to take control of the game underneath and be kind of a layer in between the game developer and the user experience. And there's a better way with these new the low-level APIs. They offer the game developer complete control over the user experience. Is what they want, right? They've got a vision of what the game player should enjoy, and they don't want anybody to mess with that.
So let me take the motherboard, and that's of course what we want to see. And this okay? So again, this is our gaming M7. Brand new. That shows you like this. So yeah, a lot of features we have packed here. I already talked to you about the you can see it as well at the top, the 2 8-pin power connectors. You don't have to use it, but it will give more power to the CPU, which means you can overclock much better. We also have more phases on the PWM, and I always have a lot of discussion with people, like what is better? Are we talking about 16 phase or 4 phase? To be honest, it's always about the implementation. So it's about the quality. You can have a very poor 16 phase, but you can also have a very strong 6 phase or 4 phase. It really depends on what kind of quality components people are using and how the implementation is. So so please stop with 16 phases better, because a few years ago we had a race like 24 phase, 48 phase, 100 phase. I call them marketing phases. It's much better to have a good designed PWM. Let me see. We have steel armor here. We have steel armor on the memory slots. So DDR4 again can do higher clock speeds, and with Ryzen 2 the integrated memory controller, the IMC, right? Integrated memory controller.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So it really improved a lot. I talked with the overclocking guys in our company, and they said, wow, they can now really push to, I'm not allowed to say, but to really interesting clock speeds when overclocking. So besides that, we have DDR4 boost. So we have an optimized memory layout design, so that the socket gets a very clear memory signal, and that's important if you don't want to have any hiccups in memory performance. And James already talked earlier about what they did on the CPU side, so L2, L3 cache timings, that everything benefits the high performance memory. And the more memory bandwidth you have, or the higher clock speeds, which translates to more memory band speed, the better performance you have in games. Then let's see, maybe I will turn it like this. So here, here we have two M.2 slots. Let me open up one. Find the screwdriver. Is this big enough? Yeah. Yeah, I was checking on the cam if you can see what I'm doing right now. And I think I'm not sure from a storage point of view, but of course, I mean, there are still a lot of hard drives which are on the market and which are sold. 2.5-inch SSDs are also sold, but I have the idea that more and more people are buying M.2 devices. So you can open it up like this, and here you have one, and here you have the second one, the M.2 slot. So this one comes with two M.2 slots, Gen 3 X4, so you get 32 megabit per second performance. So more and more people are buying the smaller M.2 devices because you don't need cables. You can have cooling solutions like this one, and what basically this is doing, if you have the high-speed devices like those from Samsung, for example, they really push the limits on performance. And they also get hot, and when they get hot, they start to throttle, as self-protection. And when they throttle, of course, they lower down the clock speeds, which is normal. But of course, then it also takes longer to finish a benchmark or to finish transfer, because you're transferring data with SSDs. So what these kind of shields are doing, this one is connected to the heatsink. They're cooling down. One moment, I think I have it. Yeah, so I have an SSD here. Corsair one, let me see, 120 gigabyte. I think that's good enough. Let's just put it in. So what you have to take in mind, I mean, these layers are protection layers, so you need to remove them. I'm now not going to do that, so need to put it in here. And then you push it down, and then like this, with the screw. Moment. So you have to lock everything into place. So once again, please remove the blue protection strip, because there is a like a cushion, a protective layer below it, which is like a thermal pad. And if you don't remove it, probably it will melt down or something. You will smell what happens, don't worry about it. Just remove it, and then, like this, it's it really acts like a heatsink. You cannot move it anymore. And with this, it will prevent throttling. I'm not going to say prevent, I should not say that. It will postpone throttling, because in the end, if you keep pushing, something in the end can always get hot, so it really depends on what kind of devices you have. And I don't know what's coming up next month on the market, the memories of the SD speeds are still going up, and at one moment there will something which will throttle this down. But basically you have faster transfer speeds, and meaning that your games load faster, your levels load faster. I still remember Battlefield 4, I'm always the first into a game because I can already take a vehicle and drive off, and other people are still loading. You know, it's quite annoying for them, but it's quite interesting for me because I'm already capping the first flag. So that is the what we call M.2 Frozzer on this mainboard. 2 M.2 slots. Let me see if there are any questions. Please talk about the precision boost button. So I think they're talking about this button at the bottom. Maybe we can see it in close up. Here we have a dial, and we call that game boost. So it's not a precision boost button. It's more like a game boost button. And you're correct. I mean, with this button, you can real time. So you don't have to have any software. You can real time adjust the CPU frequency, multipliers, and all that stuff. So basically, your CPU will get faster. And you have, I think, I don't know. I mean, you have different levels how you can do that. And this one is our top mainboard, the gaming M7. So you can really push it to the limit. Of course, also depend on your cooling. Also depends on your ambient temperature. If you do this in, for example, Egypt, it's probably like 40 degrees. And Alaska is probably -10. I don't know now, but you know, I just want to, you know, it depends on a lot of factors. So I'm not going to say you can do this many gigahertz with it. It really depends on your factor. But this is like what we call a easy overclocking button. You just dial and it goes faster. You don't have to go into your BIOS. You don't have to use any software, settings, voltages. You know, this dial is doing everything for you. James, maybe you can also give us some comment about your view on overclocking.
Yeah, should be able to get a little bit more headroom with the new 12 nanometer process, the new VRM's power phase designs on these new X470 motherboards. That looks like a really good board for tuning all cores and threads. I'm loving that M.2 design. It's going to be great because you got two M.2 straight off of the processor. You'll be able to RAID 0, RAID 1 those for maximum throughput. So you've got a ton of knobs right there. I think you guys also have a ref clock adjustment on that board as well.
Yeah, indeed.
So that's going to help you tune up if you want to get that last little extra megahertz in there when if you're stuck between memory dividers or CPU multipliers. That's how you can really fine tune the performance. So tons of overclocking options, all the voltages, and just like the first generation, all Ryzen processors are unlocked. So you'll be able to tune everything about it on that motherboard. It's going to be a fun thing.
Yeah. So let's maybe have a look at the I/O panel. A lot of connectors over there. Let me see the right angle. Start here. This is our system saver. So you have two buttons. One is for clear CMOS, and the other one is for your flash or BIOS. So, for example, we already had some questions in the beginning. What if you have a mainboard and the BIOS still not flashed? If you have a new 2700K, it probably will not boot, or you know, this can happen. So with this button, you don't have to have a CPU inside. Just put a USB key in there with the latest BIOS. You push first the clear CMOS and then you push the flash button and just power on the board without CPU. It will flash the latest BIOS on the board. So you don't have to have any dummy CPU or any older generation CPU to make it work. Then we have, of course, the black ones are USB 2.0. The red ones are USB 3.1. Yeah, 3.1 Gen 1 actually. And then we have here the two bottom one. This one is a Type C connector, USB 3.1 Gen 2. And this one is also USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type A connector. So that's for the 10 megabits performance. There are not a lot of devices which already make use of it, but I see them more and more on the market. So if you're going to buy a gaming PC and you're buying this for like, I think 2 years ahead or something, 2-3 years ahead, you know, just make sure you have Type C. More mobile devices, my phone also has it, Samsung. More mobile devices will have it in the future, you know, it's like a future connector. Then we have here those golden connectors are actually, I have them here. I talked already about the Wi-Fi, so this is the Wi-Fi module. And maybe it's a little bit strange. James, can you go to the toilet or something? Don't listen, please. We have Intel Wi-Fi. That's strange, right? James, I think you're not making Wi-Fi solutions, right?
No, currently we don't have any Wi-Fi solutions, so pick whichever ones you want. But there's a lot of different ones out there, so whatever works for you guys.
Yeah. So this is let me see over here. Yeah, I think this is the best. So let me check which Wi-Fi it is. It's a 8265. So it's a 8265. It's a 5 gigahertz AC Wi-Fi adapter. So it's already built in. You only have to connect the antennas, so you can point them. And then, if you go to some LAN parties, if you don't have a wired connection in the house for LAN, or sorry, for internet, this is also always very useful. So in the chat, I also would like to know your opinion. Do you want Wi-Fi? Because we see more and more members in the future are coming with Wi-Fi. So yeah, is this useful for you? Are you thinking, is this maybe essential for you? Is this one of your decisions when you buy a motherboard? Also has a little price premium. I think we were talking about 10 to 15 US dollar end user price. And then let me switch to this motherboard very quickly, because this is the Gaming Pro Carbon, and I want to highlight this one because here we have one version with AC, and we also have a version without AC, so it's basically without a Wi-Fi module. So the Gaming Pro Carbon AC and the Gaming Pro Carbon non is actually the X470 Gaming Pro Carbon AC and the X470 Gaming Pro Carbon. So you have the option to include it, so a little bit flexibility over there if you have this buy decision. However, for this M7, gaming M7, it always comes with Wi-Fi. I'm going to detach the antennas. So James, what's your opinion? Would you use Wi-Fi on the motherboard?
I tend to go wired directly because I love the low latency and the high throughput, but I tend to set up the Wi-Fi that's included for connecting to my phone, so I can just really fast transfer pictures and video and stuff that I've collected throughout the few days and just dump them over real easy rather than plugging in a cable. So I do use both. Yeah.
Okay, clear. So let's continue. One thing which you probably all are missing is some VGA connectors. So we don't have D-sub, we don't have HDMI, and we don't have DisplayPort. So maybe James, you can talk a little bit about your 2400G.
For sure. So that was.
I think it doesn't. I mean, does it work in this mainboard?
Absolutely, it worked just fine. You don't get the benefit of the graphics cores for video output, but you'll get all the CPU processing performance. You'll still be able to plug in a discrete card. So if you wanted to use that 2400G because that's the right level of performance for you, and you wanted to overclock it, and you have a discrete, then go for it.
Yeah, indeed. So, but I think most people. If they want to use a 2400G, they will buy a more entry-level mainboard like B350 at this moment, because price ratio is more in line. And if you're buying something like this, considering something like this, then you of course go for discrete graphics, and then you don't need any graphics in the CPU. Are you considering to have any? Because we already talked, I think a few months ago about this. You launched I have one here. Let me take it. This is the Ryzen 5, so it's a 2400G with the Vega graphics inside. Ryzen 5, no Ryzen 7. So now with the X470 on the market, are you considering to put any Ryzen 7 with integrated Vega on the market?
So with the new Ryzen 7 and Ryzen 5 that are launching tomorrow, that completes our Ryzen 2000 lineup for now. That's where we're going to keep our focus. So we've really found that people who want the processor graphics, like you said, that integrated graphics capability is for people who are most interested in keeping the overall solution cost down. They want the most affordable balance of performance and features. So in the Ryzen 7 price points, and looking at what we're going to do with the core counts and the graphics capabilities, then I don't think there's an easy way to put another chip right there at the moment.
Yeah, okay, clear. I have a technical question from Kid Chunk. James, what specifically was done to improve the Ryzen 2 inter-CCX latency? Wow, I hope you have something to answer on that.
Yeah, sure. So,
Okay.
we can continue to evolve the Infinity fabric. So we've tuned up the Infinity controller. So that's the heart inside the Infinity fabric that really, the guy that's making all the data flow between the different things. And the number one thing was to take out latency. So we tuned not only L1, L2, L3 cache and the memory controller, but the speeds between those different areas of the chip. So that's how we were able to get that higher JEDEC 2933 megahertz memory speed. So, going from 2667 to 2933 is going to help improve that core-to-core communication because you're just going faster. And now that's standard in the box.
Yeah, interesting. So that was really a technical question. I'm happy to have you on because this is beyond what I know. Another interesting question. We talked a little bit about the 2400G and if it would run on this mainboard, which it can. But of course, you cannot use integrated graphics because there are no VGA connectors on the motherboard. So the question is, can you use the integrated GPU for doing some other applications? I remember in the past, Handbrake, for example, could use the GPU to do video conversion. So could the 2400G, the Vega graphics inside, be used to do some processing without video output?
Yeah, it could. You could use it for compute applications or encode decode if the applications let you pick that device. A lot of the different applications today, when you go into the preferences and settings, you can select which compute body for OpenCL or for HEVC or X264, etc., etc. So if you've got that level of control inside your application, you can use the internal side. So you could, theoretically, you're multitasking, you're doing a couple of things, you have your discrete GPU doing something, and you want to add another task that can take advantage of GPU, you could put that inside the socket instead of onto that discrete.
Yeah, I'm checking some more questions. Somebody is asking, the two 8-pin connectors is like for overclocking. So yeah, I have some people joining on the stream. So we talked about it. So we have two 8-pin power connector, and indeed with this you can get more power to the CPU. So indeed you can achieve higher overclocking, and with by default the new 2700X already has higher clock speeds, but also the boost clock is higher. So, and with solutions like XFR 2.0 and precision boost, and with these two power connectors, and each power supply has them nowadays, you can even go to higher clock speeds. So overclocker's dream, I would say. Yeah, let me talk a little. I have also a question about the LAN. Yes, so the LAN connector over here. Yes, this is gigabit LAN, and for the gaming motherboard, of course, we're using killer LAN. So last stream we had a lot of discussions about killer LAN, the good and the bad. What I'm trying to arrange, I'm in contact with the guys from Killer, and I know there are a lot of comments about Killer, like they have bad driver support, it is not better, it doesn't improve ping. I remember, when they started the Killer company, it was sold to, I believe, Qualcomm, and for Qualcomm it was just a product in the lineup. And I think 1 year ago or something, maybe a little bit longer ago, the original founders from Killer, they bought the company back, and now they changed a lot of things, and especially in Windows 10, driver support is top notch. So what I'm trying to do in the coming weeks, and I'm looking maybe middle of May time frame, I'm looking a little bit towards that time frame. We will have a live stream here with the guys of Killer on, and then we can talk about all the Killer solutions they have, and you can all have all questions about about everything. What is the like driver support, about how fast it is, how to benchmark, what the benefits are. I can do a live demo about bandwidth management control. But yeah, we really see the benefit of this, of the Killer solutions, especially for gamers. So bandwidth management is really important, especially if you have a Wi-Fi connector and a LAN connector. You can even do double shot, Killer double shot it's called. And you can choose on what connector you want to have the priority per application. So, and as a gamer, you really want to offload the games because you don't want high ping, and you don't want that your YouTube on the background or your Discord or TeamSpeak, interferes with your game. And with this, you really can separate them on different bandwidth and prioritize them. So first the game, rest later, because you don't want to have a knife in your back. So yeah, let me see what we're still. Yeah, okay, I have something here. So I think nobody knows this, and let me see. There is a very small connector here somewhere, and I'm going to connect a battery pack on it with a special cable. Let me see if I can do it like this. Yeah. So at the bottom we have a very small connector. It's not in the manual. I was searching for it, and with this cable, if you connect just a USB battery pack, you can already do a live demo on the RGB LED. And I thought, hey, let's do that. On some mainboards we also have a button, so you can even switch between the different settings, like the flashing, audio, disco, I don't know what kind of, we have like 18 modes. Also the back of the mainboard, if you hold it like this, I think you can really clearly see it, the RGB LED. Currently I don't have any specific schedule or scheme, to make them flash. I also don't have any software to make them like all red or all blue, but with the MSI software you can all do this. So this is how we can very easily live demo it. I don't need to have a power supply and a CPU on it, and it's a very small connector at the bottom. Let me see. Yeah, it's so small it's very difficult to see. Anyway, it's not in the manual because I was searching. So is it on this mainboard? And yes, it's on here. Let's talk a little bit about audio. As you can see here, here we have the audio boost, audio boost 4. So basically what we're doing, we have those audio capacitors, and this gives really a warm feeling. We have shielded audio, so no interference. We also have the audio PCB separated from the rest of the motherboard, so you don't have any interference. Left channel and right channel are in different layers of the mainboard. And let's talking about layers. Ooh, this is also very difficult to see. Let me over here. Focus. You see the yellowish dot? Yeah, that is an indicator of the number of layers. So I think with a microscope or something, the bottom layer is layer number 8, and this is a 8-layer PCB. Yes, so I see here, is it 8? It's a 6-layer PCB. So I see 6, then I see a 5, and then, yeah, well, it's very difficult to see. But over here you can, it's transparent, and each layer is transparent, and below it it's a number engraved, so you can see how many layers that's. The more layers, of course, the more expensive, but the more layers also means it has separate layers, and we can put audio in different layers. So normally the more high-end mainboard with audio boost 4, we have those kind of layers. But also for overclockability, different layers, the audio channels are not interfering with each other, channel A, channel B. Normally you find this on the higher-end mainboards, like this gaming M7 AC motherboard. So that's for audio. Let me check if there are any questions. What is Vulkan? James, can you maybe talk a little bit about Vulkan? Because basically, I think Vulkan has a lot of your own graphics technology. You launched your own API, and then I remember Battlefield was making use of it.
Yeah, that's right. So OpenGL Vulkan was what the Kronos Group, who are this industry-wide standards body who develop programming interfaces for gamers and for anybody who's just going to do 3D rendering, put together. It's cross-platform, can be used on just about any device with suitable drivers. So they were happy to take a look at a technology that AMD had unveiled called Mantle. And Mantle was inspired by the low-level APIs we'd seen some of the console players using to really get the most performance out of the hardware they had at their disposal. So we developed this for the PC and put it out there. And we had a few games that showed a nice performance benefit from it. Showed the power of multi-core. You could get just tons more units on screen in RTS because there was just so much more processing power available, so much more time in the frame when you're not using one thread to go through all the list, but you're using all of the threads.
Yeah.
And the best possible outcome was for it to become an industry standard, and that's what happened when OpenGL, the Kronos group, pulled together and created Vulkan using Mantle as the heart of it. So all the big graphics chip companies, including ARM, came together and made sure that this was a brand new low-level API for the future, and its history is rooted in AMD's Mantle, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I still remember that DirectX 12 is also inspired by it. They saw what Mantle at that moment could do, and especially optimize or make more use of better use of the multi-core CPUs. And from that moment, they also started to kick off DirectX 12.
For sure, it's a parallel development inspired by the same kind of thinking at the same time, and just that community is pretty close, so they get the same sort of answers.
Yeah, and what was the name of the game again? The real-time strategy game with all the units. I think it was from the makers of Windows Blinds, right?
Yeah, there was Ashes of the Singularity.
Yes.
Great scaling for that, so you can still see that. There was a specific demo they did for Mantle at the time, but that game engine they created, the Oxide engine, became Ashes of the Singularity as its first game. It's a fun game. You can get a ton of great high number of ships on screen, and that change, that newness, is all because they're able to pretty simply and easily move to multi-threading and develop games.
Okay, let me see if there are so many questions. Are you going to give one away? Can you make an 8-core APU? Well, maybe in the future, I guess. GPP? Well, I don't know anything about GPP. Let me see. Okay, a question. I have an MSI X470. It's with the latest BIOS. I buy Ryzen 26 is going to work. Yes, if you have the latest BIOS at this moment for the MSI X470. If you, it doesn't mention which one, but for each mainboard, each X470 mainboard from MSI, we already released a new BIOS code, the AGISA code from AMD in the beginning of March, and with that latest BIOS you can run the new let's say the second generation Ryzen CPUs like 2600 to what you're saying without any problem. Just drop it in, it will work. Same socket. With the CPU comes a new cooler, so you even be able to overclock much higher, because most of the technology and optimizations are in the CPU, so you will benefit from that. Let me see. Pricing of the CPUs, James, can you maybe repeat them?
Yeah, sure. So in US dollars, which is where I'm based, so what I know the best, and I can't remember all the taxes and fees that get added on everywhere else. So US dollars, for the Ryzen 7 2700X, $329, great price. Get that 8-core 16-thread with the 4.35 gigahertz max frequency and 3.7 gigahertz base. Ryzen 7 2700, which is our 65-watt part, still a 4.1 gigahertz max frequency on the processor. So that's the same as the 1800X was last year, and that's at $299. Very good performance there. The Ryzen 5 2600X, the flagship Ryzen 5, 6 cores, 12 threads. It's going to be 4.2 gigahertz max boost there, and that's going to be at $229. So that's a very good pricing right there, especially compared to the 1600X. And then finally, you've got the Ryzen 5 2600, 65 watt TDP, 3.9 gigahertz boost frequency. Still very, very high. That's going to be.
We can also show it on the screen.
Yeah, put it up there. It's got all that frequency, and that's $199.
CPU.
So you've got to, all of these products come with the coolers. So for the extra $20-$30 between the 65 watt model and the X model, you're getting a better cooler, you're getting more clock speeds, you're getting the most performance out of the box that we can offer you, and you're getting that full 3-year warranty as well.
Yeah. And like what I said before, with the latest BIOS, just put them in the MSI X370 mainboard, or of course X470 mainboard, and no problem at all. It is backwards compatible, so it will run without any problem. So let's maybe take a slide with all the MSI motherboards, because I see a lot of questions about, will you have a white MSI X470 motherboard? Well, I cannot comment on upcoming projects, so this is our roadmap. Maybe we can also see our lineup. So these are the 5 models we have on the market. We have the X470 Gaming M7 AC, so that's with Wi-Fi, AC Wi-Fi. We have the MSI X470 Gaming Pro Carbon AC, that's also with Wi-Fi, and then we have the same model without Wi-Fi, so without the AC. Then we have the Gaming Pro, X470 Gaming Pro, and X470 Gaming Plus. This table, you know, I know it's probably very small and you probably cannot see it on Facebook. On YouTube we're streaming on 1080p 60 FPS, so that should be viewable if you watch full screen. But just go to our website, and let me post some links in the chat. One moment. Too many open windows. Here we have it. So let me post it here. This one. So like that. So this is the X470 Gaming M7, the top model. So like what I told already before, we have a lot of different specs, but it's, I think, better to watch, you know, because not only specs are different, but also the heat sinks. Yeah, so this one, I'm not going to say left or right because it's a little bit confusing on the stream, but this is my right side, so I hope for you as well. This one is the M7 ACK, the X470 Gaming M7 ACK. So, and this on the left side, as you can see, it also has the Wi-Fi connectors, the golden ones. This is the X470 Gaming Pro Carbon AC. So both are gaming motherboards, but if you look at it, you already see some differences. This one, for example, has the two M.2 shields, which are connected to the PCH heatsink or to the chipset cooler, and this one has the M.2 shield version 2, and it only has it on one slot, because here you have another M.2 slot, but it doesn't come with cooler. So each of the mainboards have different features. So I think if you're into X470 mainboard, go to our website, and we have on the if you click on motherboards on the main menu, you have a filter on the left side, and with the filter you can very easily narrow down what you want. You know, you can select AMD, you can select X470 chipset, then you see 5 models. If you want Wi-Fi, probably only 2 will be left there. If you don't want Wi-Fi, but you want, for example, SLI, or you want M.2 shield, you know, just make the selections. All of the motherboards have, of course, a CPU socket to put your CPU in, logical. 4 DIMM slots, so all come with 4 DIMM slots. And I think, James, nowadays you can go up to 64 or already 120 gig memory.
Yeah, it's really going to be limited by the DIMMs you can find. Yeah. So, you know,
and by price you want to pay, because memory at this moment is quite expensive, right?
Yeah, mint price. You know, we validated up to 64 gigabytes because that's the sticks we have on hand. But you know, when you get 16 gig sticks in the market, 32 gig sticks, then they'll work. You know, the address table for Ryzen is massive. It'll probably support 512 gig if you can ever get the DIMMs for it.
Yeah. So Pci Express slots are also the same. Because the PCI lanes are mainly coming from the CPU. So you have here, one moment, so this one you have 3 slots. This one is by 16 or divided 2 by 8, and then over here you have 1 by 4. So you can run Crossfire, you can run, I think it's called Crossfire with 2 GPUs, or triple Crossfire with 3 GPUs. You can also run SLI, like what I showed you before. There is a SLI bridge inside. and you can only run dual SLI. If you want quad SLI, first of all, you need to have the old generation, the 900 series, because the new 1000 series doesn't do SLI anymore, not triple or quad. And you need the X399 motherboards, because these X470 mainboards only go to 1x16 or 2x8, and you need minimum 3x8 in order to do more SLI. In that respect, Crossfire is much more flexible, but like what we already talked about, you know, nowadays if you have like Vega, you know, no need to have, you can do 4K, 60 FPS in high or even ultra settings depending on the game. And for the future, you know, we don't know. Also the I/O panel over here. As you can see, let's. So you don't see so you don't see a lot of differences over there. The one board, let me see. Yeah, so this is quite interesting. So the high-end board doesn't. The high-end board on top doesn't have any VGA output, and over here you see an. Let me see. Over here you see a display port on the on the top, and you see HDMI connector on the bottom. So with this you can run your 24G. But it doesn't make a lot of sense, you know. Normally you go for B350 or what's coming up in the future. So this is Gaming Pro Carbon. Let me put this one aside. And then take this one. More logical for me. Gaming Pro Carbon, which is this one. And then we have the, let me see, this is Gaming Pro. The X470, the MSI X470 Gaming Pro. So, and as you can see, let me see. Yeah, still come with two M.2 connectors. However, it doesn't have any heat shield. This motherboard, so the one on the right in this hand, which I'm moving, has memory steel armor. This one doesn't have memory steel armor. So there are a lot of differences, you know. We have a lot of specs, we have a lot of features, we have a lot of items which will help you for gaming, also for overclocking. Remember I showed you the overclocking dial on the Gaming M7, this one over here. Yeah, too many mainboards. They should only give me one mainboard. So this overclocking dial, you can very easy crank up the speed. Over here you even have an internal Type-C connector, a very expensive connector. You will not find that on the other mainboards in this lineup. So here you have internal USB 3.1 Gen 1, but you don't have Gen 2. For that you need a high-speed connector, which I just showed you. And on this one, which is a lower board, you also don't have that. So it not only depends on what your taste is, it also depends on the features you want. So let me put this one aside, and I have here another one. So this is the Gaming Plus. So again, no I/O cover, as you can see. I/O covers, we have a lot of discussion with people, you know, is it useful for cooling? Is it useful for radiation, so EMI radiation, or is it useful for protection? Well, for cooling it depends how we design. We have some mainboards where the PWM cooling, this one is connected to the I/O cover, and then it helps with cooling, because the bigger the surface, the better. Protection, yes, always, you know. The I/O panel, you don't want to have damage, because then you cannot use all the connectors anymore. So again, over here, different I/O panel. I think the differences are clearly to see. This motherboard, no Wi-Fi. You don't have a display port. You have a DVI connector. You have an HDMI connector here at the bottom. You don't have Type-C. So yeah, please go to our website and find out the differences. At this moment, Jeroen, can you maybe go back to the overview with the lineup? So this is our lineup again. At this moment we don't have a wide mainboard, but you also see only ATX models. There are some other models in the pipeline, so I'm not going to say ATX, micro ATX, because this will still take some while. And wide, who knows, you know. At this moment we didn't release them. Let me see. Ooh, somebody already bought something, a pre-order. Funny pick, nice. He ordered the 2700K, 2700X with the MSI mainboard at Amazon in Germany, but he's still waiting for when it's delivered. Let me see if there are any other questions. Somebody is, of course, complaining about the high GPU pricing. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I believe the GPU prices will not come down soon. I believe we saw a dip. If you look at the cryptocurrency prices, they went down, and a lot of people stopped mining. However, prices are going up again. And at one moment, the companies like Bitmain, the big companies who make the ASICs for mining, they also wanted to release some Ethereum and what was it, XMR miner, so an ASIC miner for XMR and Ethereum. But this was already killed by a hard fork. So I'm afraid the mining crazy will get bigger. But that's only a small part of pricing. I think in the last few months of 2017, we saw a big increase in memory pricing, and more than doubled. And if you have a VGA card, a GPU with 8 gig, then this is like €70 or $70 higher in price, only in the memory. PCB price increased, components like solid capacitors, etc. increased. A lot of those items contribute to the higher GPU pricing, and also the shortage. So yeah, to be honest, I see a dip right now. Of course, I'm not a fortune teller. I cannot say if they go down or if they go up, but I expect they will go up again. So yeah, I almost would say if you consider to buy a GPU, maybe try to get your hands on right now, maybe second-handed. I saw prices came down like 15 to 20% in the second-hand market. Not in each country. In Europe, I saw some countries where it happened. In USA, I saw the second-hand prices still quite high. But yeah, I'm afraid. We also don't know when new GPU, because that's your next question, when. Here you have it already. Yeah, when new GPU is coming. Of course, that's your next question. That will not help with shortage, or that will not help with more supply into the market and lower pricing. It's more, the environment, like the memory, the mining, etc. So, like what I said, I cannot predict anything, but I expect prices will go up again. And will they go up higher than they were? I hope not, because I'm also a gamer, and I also have to get my hands on some nice VGA cards. Because end of this year again, some nice games are coming out. Let me check if there's some other prizes. A prize from Dave Enk. He's asking how does it compare to the 1700X? So I think he's referring to the 2700X. How does it compare to the 1700X? Well, we already talked about it. James, maybe you can comment a little bit, but we talked about the high clock speeds. Yeah, maybe it's. I think it's a typical question for you.
Yeah, great. I mean, we can't talk about the performance just yet, but in terms of specifications, 1700X was 3.4 gigahertz base frequency, and the 2700X is 3.7 gigahertz. And the boost frequency of the 1700X was 3.8 gigahertz. So you see already that the base and the boost are very close. But then you add in the fact we have Precision Boost 2 and the 4.35 gigahertz boost frequency of the 2700X. You're going to get a very big performance uplift when you go from a 1700X to a 2700X. And you're also getting that Wraith Prism, so that's going to help you take advantage of XFR2. So you're going to get more cores and threads at higher frequencies. And that's something the 1700X just can't do, because it's on the older Precision Boost algorithm, which only is 2 cores, whereas Precision Boost 2 is all cores and threads, XFR2 is all cores and threads. So you're getting a massive difference in technologies, which are going to helpfully deliver a lot of more important performance in your gaming and your lightly threaded applications, because you've got so much more clock speed headroom for all those threads and cores.
Yeah, and like what I said already before, from the motherboard side, we also improved a lot on the X470 designs. So the memory layout improved. We have a better VRM design. So let me do like this. So indeed, you can overclock much higher also with XFR 2.0. So I think this will be an overclocker's dream, but let's wait. I saw somebody asking the question, when can we see benchmarks? When is the NDA? We already talked about it. This will be tomorrow sometime. So let's say in about, let's wait another 24 hours. Then you can see all the benchmarks online. Your favorite website, your hardware website will have reviews of all the CPUs and motherboards online. Yeah, can I have one? No, sorry, this is mine. Let me see. Is there going to be any micro or mini format? Yes, there will be later, but I cannot go into details now. But later you will see these in some smaller forms. Somebody is saving for X490. Don't know what that is, sorry. Yeah, I think those are most of the questions answered. So let me put this here. I think we're going to no giveaways today. No motherboards, no CPUs. Yeah, I think James, thanks for your time. Thanks. I hope all the questions kept you awake with your jet lag.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks so much, guys, for all the questions. Anything else, then feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter. We'd love to talk to you guys.
Yeah, so thanks for being here and thanks for helping us out. Everybody, next week we're going to talk about Afterburner. Afterburner is our overclocking utility for VGA cards. Of course, it works perfectly with MSI, but also supports all other brand graphic cards. And we're not really talking about overclocking, but more how to use the OSD. So with the OSD you can put a lot of information about your system on the screen during gameplay. And this is not only useful when debugging, but also when you want to see how much FPS you have during gameplay, and if you got killed by the drop in FPS or just by a knife in your back. Okay, that's it for this week. See you next week, same time, Wednesdays, 1600 CET Europe time. Thank you. Thanks, James. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.